G'day, I'm Paul, Volkswagen Amarok. I know we've reviewed a couple of these now, but we haven't yet set foot in the 4-cylinder diesel, and that's what we're going to do today. This is called the Amarok Life. It's one up from the base model. The entry level actually has slightly different diesel engine to this. This one is, I guess, the media version of it. This is priced at just under $57,000, but if that's too expensive, the entire Amarok range kicks off at just under 53 grand. Now, this competes with things like Toyota Hilux, Ford Ranger, Isuzu D-Max. You know the culprits in this segment, they're all there. We actually shot a massive dual cab ute comparison, so if you do want to check that out, click up here to watch that. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. We are just going to be doing on-road driving. We will get one of these back with the all-terrains to do some off-road driving as well. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon as well, so you can find out every single time we review another dual cab ute. Now let's chat exterior design. You've got a number of colors to pick from. Your optional colors around $1,000. I actually quite like the design of this a whole lot more than that top spec Aventura. I think they've done a better job with the color combos here. It's not sort of too in your face, and it actually sort of looks premium but doesn't sort of look a little over the top. So you've got that sort of brushed chrome look up here, big Volkswagen logo just there, and then that sort of grey colored silver look down the bottom there as well. So it's all sort of pretty straightforward. Over here you've got a set of full LED headlights. You also have LED fog lamps hidden under there as well. And as we whip around to the side, have a look at these tyres. So it's sitting on 17s, but this is a very chubby profile, 70 profile tyres. So this should actually ride really nicely. I think I mentioned in the other Amarok reviews that this was tuned slightly differently to the Ranger product, which means that it has its own sort of bespoke feel behind the wheel, and I'll be keen to see how different this feels as well in comparison. So wheel arch cladding up there. I like this design, so just differentiating it a bit from other dual cab utes on the market. You've got that little notch up the top there, and it just looks classy but off-road capable. Up the top here, you've got an indicator built into that wing mirror. I have mentioned this before in a number of dual cab ute reviews. I really don't like these plastic side steps. I just think they look a bit cheap, and I think that they could perhaps at least offer an option for something a little more stylized and meatier down there. No proximity sensing. This is just a manual key to get in, but you do get privacy glass. This spec also gets rear disc brakes, so you don't get disc brakes on the entry-level model, but one step up from that brings you rear disc brakes. The 4Motion sticker there, because this is all-wheel drive. Now around the back here you have incandescent globes, so no LED in there. Another 4Motion badge, Amarok, pressed into that tailgate. I also like this, so camera is central. The reason this is a bit of a big deal is there are a number of dual cab utes in this segment that have the camera offset. I think even the new Triton has the camera over here, and it means that when you are backing into things that nothing is ever aligned properly, it has to be central to the tow bar. So yeah, it is good that they've actually thought of that and integrated that within the Volkswagen logo there. Brake light just here, reflected down the bottom there as well. Another point just worth calling out as well, it is useful having the brake light here instead of up there on the cab, because if you do actually fit a canopy, this is then visible, whereas when it is up on the cab there, you have to have a brake light fitted to the canopy itself. So this is a much better setup. 3.5 ton braked towing capacity, and then a little sticky beak in the tray. Now in here, you're gonna find no tray liner. It is just bare in there. You can get one installed if you do need to, but load length of just over 1,500 mil, load width of just over 1,200 mil, and a payload of just under a ton. You've also got load hooks off to the side there. You have a light as well. There is no 12-volt outlet off to the side here, which I thought was interesting. So you don't actually have anywhere to connect power at the back here. The panel is there, so I guess you could run your own stuff if you wanted to, but that is just something worth keeping in mind. You do have a torsion bar down here as well to make this easy to open and close, and then a ruler built into here as well, just for a bit of fun. So what do you reckon about the Amarok in this spec? I don't know, I just think that this is probably the better proposition. It is reasonably priced. It comes with a fair bit of standard kit as well, and I think it actually looks pretty good too. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Okay, so we are inside the Amarok Life. This is what the key looks like. You've got unlock, lock, and have a look, it is a physical key. So you can put that in the keyhole, turn that to switch everything on. So just in terms of appearance here, the first thing I notice is it has a lot of these pretty sort of scratchy surfaces along the top there and then all the way down as well. Probably not such a bad thing given this is at the entry level, and that kind of follows on here with the materials they use in the rest of the cabin. It is sort of very much built for the worker, I think, someone who doesn't mind getting their vehicle dirty and actually using it for work purposes. So I guess if that is your task, that's not such a bad thing, but it definitely doesn't feel as premium as some of the more expensive Amarok variants. But I guess that's just worth pointing out. Now, in terms of your touch points, so that is nice and soft, and very nice and soft on the door as well. How soft are they? Well, we've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now, build quality. A little bit wonky there in the center, and you can see it kind of moving around there. One thing I did notice, the seat that I'm sitting on at the moment, the fabric here is already bunching up, which I don't think is very good for a car that is 1,500 kilometers old. Also noticed some inconsistent gaps up the front there as well. So I mentioned in, I think, our first Amarok review that the build quality of the early cars doesn't seem to be amazing, and hopefully that is something that they will address as customer cars start running through. And our door slams is what it sounds like. Now let's chat infotainment. So the lower grades of Amarok get a smaller screen here. So this is a 10-inch screen instead of the large one. So you can see that bezel around the edge there, finished in piano black, takes up the room where the screen would normally be. But just like the Ranger, this smaller screen actually is faster and works better than the larger screen. So as you're sort of going between the menus and stuff like that, it's not as laggy as the bigger screen is, which I think is a bit of a bonus because there's no point having a bigger screen if it's just going to be laggy and annoying. But unfortunately, this still does have the downfalls of the bigger screen in Amarok because you don't actually have any real shortcuts here for key items. So for things like turning off stop start, you've got to go into this menu, then you've got to go into turn stop start off. Same with climate control. If you do want to close your air vent, you've got to go into the climate menu, then press that button. There's no sort of easy way to do it. There's no temperature control down here either. You have to do that here on the screen. So a little bit frustrating, but I guess it is what it is. Hopefully they can fix that in the future with a software update. On the radio front, you have AM, FM, DAB digital radio. That is plumbed through a 6-speaker sound system. Sound system's okay, sort of nothing sort of too crazy. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Apple CarPlay is wireless. This is what it looks like. So nice big integration there, very nice and quick as well. And this is what Android Auto looks like. So that is wireless as well, full screen integration. Nice and snappy too, very impressive. Head of the driver is a smaller 8-inch display. It's all sort of pretty straightforward. You have LEDs on either side for fuel and engine temperature, and then the center is all dedicated to speedometer and also trip computer. Let's talk safety tech. So you have autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You have an auto dimming rear vision mirror. You've got radar cruise control. You've also got a blind spot monitor built into the wing mirror, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, and a reverse view camera. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go over here into camera. So the quality isn't actually too bad. So you can kind of see what's going on the suitcase there, but I do love the fact that that is centrally aligned. You then can also zoom in as you're approaching the trailer to get a proper guidance into that, which is pretty good. This is what the horn sounds like. Let's chat practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. So down here, you've got yourself a USB-C port, a USB-A port, you have a 12-volt outlet, you've got another USB-A port up here for dash camera, wireless phone charger down here, which is good news. In terms of storing your phone, you can whack it down there, or you can pop it over here if you want as well. Bottles and cups and stuff, so coffee cup can go into here. I've mentioned this before in our other Amarok reviews, but in the Ranger they have the cup holders over on this side, which means it's easier to get your drink out here. You kind of have to tilt down and awkwardly pick that up while you're driving, and it is not the best spot for it, but you do have teeth down there to hold your bottle in place. That fits in without any dramas. Fits inside the door as well. Try a big bottle too. Yes, that fits inside the door too. In terms of your other storage, you've got this center console here, which is nice and deep. You've also got a glove box down here, which is pretty reasonably sized, and then a secondary glove box up the top here. You've got this little nook up there, and then finally a sunglasses holder up here. Now, comfort. You have single zone manual climate control, so all done through this screen. And then you can adjust the temperature there as well to get it outside of the bitterly cold temperature that it is outside right now. Outside of that, there's nothing sort of too special there. The seats, they are really comfortable despite that sort of fabric issue I mentioned before, but they do offer fully manual adjustment with manual height control as well. And then in addition to that, you have steering that offers both tilt and reach adjustment. And on our reach test, all of this stuff is really easy to reach while you're driving. Now, before we hop in the back, I just want to run you through how this all works. Now, under here, you have a little bit of storage. So you can see there, they've got a jack, tow bar, pop a couple of odds and ends in there if you want. And behind here, this is where you're going to find your top tether points as well, plus a little bit of extra storage. Do keep in mind that you only have 2 top tether points here, this one and that one over there. This is just for the seat to connect back in. Now, what's it like in terms of space? Let's climb on in. Okay, so it's actually not too bad. My seat is pretty far back. Toe room is a little bit compromised, but knee room is fine and headroom is pretty good as well. No air vents back here, which is pretty disappointing. You do have a 12-volt outlet though, and 2 mat pockets just there. You've got a center armrest here with 2 cup holders as well. Now, what about the window? So it's auto up and down. Look at that, goes all the way down. Very impressive. We've just hit the road in the Amarok Life. So yeah, this engine's going to be pretty familiar. It is the same engine they use in the 4-cylinder range of the bi-turbo. So 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel, makes 154 kilowatts of power, 500 newton meters of torque, and it's mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. It is worth keeping in mind as well that even though this has a 4Motion sticker on the side there, it actually runs predominantly in 2-wheel drive high range. You can only use 4-wheel drive high range when you are on unsealed surfaces. That is because you're getting a 50-50 torque split between the front and the rear, and you can actually do a lot of damage if you're driving in 4-wheel drive high range on a sealed surface for extended periods. And also, it is just worth pointing out as well, we've actually done a fair bit of off-road testing in the Amarok too. So if you want to see how the off-road performance of the Amarok is, click up here to watch our Amarok off-road video. Now, what does all that feel like behind the wheel? Let's give it a little punch here. Yeah, look, it's a nice, healthy slab of torque. It's not going to sort of pull your face off, but the gearbox is pretty nice and responsive, and you can just lean on it and it starts sort of accelerating away nicely without sort of too many dramas. Now, let's talk fuel economy. So, Volkswagen claims a combined average of around 7 litres per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on 8.5 litres per 100 Ks, which I reckon is actually a pretty sort of decent number there. I'm quite happy with that, given that it has been driven around pretty hard this morning. So yeah, pretty impressed with that. Okay, sine wave time. I'm going to dial up 130 Ks an hour. We'll see what this is like over our sine waves. It's interesting, it feels about on par with the Ranger there, despite the tyre choice being different here. So yeah, it seems to me like they have pretty similar suspension tunes. So it does get a fair bit of lift, but it's nothing outrageous. We did find with the Aventura that it just left the ground when it hit those sine waves. So this seems to be tuned for that payload carrying capacity as opposed to that sort of softness. Okie dokie, time for our bumpy road test. So we do this at 90 Ks an hour. It is a very bad road. Worst road in Australia. So let's see what this feels like. And then we've got a condensed sine wave as well. It's interesting, it's got a soft sort of edge to it, but it is still a little bit firm and bouncy. Here's our condensed sine wave. We'll see what it's like across here. Shakes the living daylights out of the car, but yeah, look, it's fine. I think if you're to attack a corrugated road or something like that, That'll be fine. It is probably just a little firmer than I thought it was going to be across this type of terrain. Now, just in terms of road noise, outside of the engine making the noise inside the cabin here, the tyres are actually pretty good. So this uses Continentals. The Ranger uses a different brand of tyre, and this to me, I'm going to have to look back at the numbers, but this to me sounds like it actually introduces less noise into the cabin when we put it up against our calibrated sound meter. Now, you don't have any on-road drive modes here. You've got normal eco, tow, haul, and slippery, but let's go for a bit of a fang around our ride and handling circuit and just see how this feels with a bit of speed on board. It is very wet out here today, so maybe a little bit sketchy, but should be fine. Now, it is interesting, even being as damp as it is, these tyres feel like they have a whole lot more traction available than they do in the Ranger. And I think that Volkswagen has gone down the path of selecting a more sort of SUV-oriented tyre as opposed to an off-road focused tyre. And I think that's actually paying dividends because you're getting less road noise. And here on our ride and handling track, which is fairly unforgiving in the wet, it is actually holding on really nicely. So really impressed with this. And this chassis in general is actually quite good in terms of how much road holding you get out of it. I think they've done a great job here. It's unladen, two-wheel drive. It is really just holding on beautifully. So yeah, excellent job on the ride and handling front. Okay, time to do a little bit of performance testing. Now, before we do, I want to tell you about Help Me CarExpert. CarExpert is a massive company. It's not just me and Igor and Sean doing video stuff. We have a network of vetted dealers across Australia that can get you great deals on cars that are in stock. So all you need to do is head to Google, type in Help Me CarExpert, and then we will take care of the rest from there. Okay, so let's do some performance testing. I want to see how this goes to 100. I'm going to turn off traction control, and we'll see how it goes. I'll just dial up some revs. There is no sport mode, and then we will see what happens. We'll go all the way through to 120. So here we go. Oh, we'll slip off the line there. It is unfortunately wet outside, but we'll see how we go. So there's 100, and there's 120. So I'll bring it up to a stop. 0 to 100, 9.59 seconds, which I think is pretty good given we had wheels slip off the line there. And then 80 to 120, 7.11 seconds, which isn't too bad. Well, yeah, look, it's okay. I mean, that is where you're going to fall down with a four-cylinder. A V6 will really give you that extra headroom between 80 to 120, which is your overtaking and that kind of thing. All right, let's head back and do a stop from 100 k's an hour. All right, here we go. It is worth keeping in mind it is very patchy and wet out there, so we'll see how we go. So 100 to 0, 3.43 seconds and 47.55 meters. So yeah, not a great stopping distance, but yeah, given it is so wet out there, there's not much we can do about that. Now, if you do want more information on the app that we use for performance testing, have a look at the link in the description below. And if you do want to see how the Amarok compares to other dual cab utes that we've tested before in terms of performance results, head to the link in the description. Now, reverse acceleration test. So, then into reverse, hit the throttle. Go 43 kilometers an hour. So, Amarok Life, what do we reckon? Look, to be honest, out of all the Amaroks I've driven, this one is actually pretty good. It kind of balances pricing and features. It kind of gives you everything that you need, and it just delivers with that 500 Newton meters of torque from the four-cylinder engine. So I think this is probably the sweet spot in the range. I really would love it if they'd offer that four-cylinder petrol in a spec like this as well. I think it'd sell really well. Things I didn't like though, look, it was just those quirks that I've mentioned before in our other Amarok reviews, like the build quality. I just think some of that still definitely needs some work, and also just not being able to access some of those critical controls without diving into the menus. Outside of that, it does everything really well. So let me know in the comments section below. Have you bought an Amarok? Are you waiting for delivery? What's it like? How's it all going? If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.